Today we're going to talk about the Lady Trent Memoirs by Marie Brennan. If this should be on your TBR, and like all my should you reads, I'm going to try and make sure that you're given the information you need to make a good decision on if you should get it from the library, if you should buy it, if you should pass it by. I'm incredibly biased. I love this series. It's like a 4.5-star series that I find incredibly cozy and comfortable. I cannot wait to reread it again in the future. It's one of those things where the series to me is very much like the whole thing makes me happy. Like, it's not like one moment sticks out. I just fell into this world, loved hearing Lady Trent tell me about her adventures and stories, and I can't wait to revisit it one day and just have that cozy experience again. So if you wanted to know my general opinion, that's my general opinion. I really love them. I feel like that is no surprise if you have been on my channel, but if you're new, if this is the first time you're seeing me, hi, welcome. This is a review video where I'm going to talk about things that I think you should know to decide if this is a fantasy series for you, because like all things, it's not for everyone, and it's still a long series. The books themselves aren't that long, but there are 6 novels, all of them at least 300 pages, so you know, time is precious, time is finite. Is this a series you should be looking into? I think one of the first things you have to know is the setting and era that it's inspired by. These are books that know they're books. They are all meant to be memoirs, or in this case, this is kind of like the companion novel is like discussing a part of history with different mixed media aspects, but regardless, these are all books that in a fictional world are also books, which is an interesting narrative device and may work for some people better than others. I personally love the memoir writing style, and it's a memoir written in a Victorian-inspired secondary world. So it's not our world, but it's heavily inspired by our world. Like, if you don't like that, if you don't like when fantasy worlds are so obviously like, here's a name, and it technically really is the continent of Africa, or this is definitely Asia, or, you know, stuff like that, if that bothers you in world building, that's very prevalent here. It is very obvious that this is inspired by, like, Victoria, England, where Isabella Trent grew up, and things like that. And she's growing up in a patriarchy, and she wants to be a scientist where she's not really allowed to be a scientist, and each of these books is an adventure that she went on, and you can kind of see how her fame grew, because you know at the start of this that she's a famous old lady writing her memoirs. And what's really interesting, again, that these know that they're memoirs, is she'll refer to things that someone in this fictional world knows is a thing that you don't. You're just like, oh, you're talking about that like I have the tabloids, but I don't. And I don't know what you're talking about. And that is how the intrigue is laced in the story. Because I say at the top that this is very cozy for me. Because Lady Trent is telling this story in her old age, you know she's fine. And she gets into trouble all the time, like so much trouble. It's fantastic. But, you know, you never get stressed that something bad will happen, like really bad, because she's telling you this story, but you don't know what's happening next. You're like, what is happening? What are you referring to politically that this is involved with? What is the scandal? And that is the intrigue of each novel. Now, I don't think I necessarily needed the intrigue. I think the plots are all fine. They're fairly formulaic. They are, Lady Trent needs to set up an adventure to go on to answer the questions to X thing about dragons, and then chaos ensues, and then the plot always speeds up at the end, and you're like, wow, things really happened. It's really cozy in that way. I didn't mind the formulaic nature, but if you're someone who does mind predictable formulaic things, know that's there. The reason I loved it is I just loved listening to Lady Trent tell me a story. She's hysterical. Lady Trent is a character who just, she is sassy, she is snarky, she is an old lady who, she's done her time. She's going to say what she wants the way she wants it. And she does, to a degree, say things in what she believes is an honest way. Obviously, we have a narrator who's probably going to be unreliable because she's telling her own story. But when she made mistakes, she was pretty forthright about them. When she's discussing her past and how she probably handled cultural things very insensitively, she brings it up. Like, she's someone who is reflecting on her past. And so some things will have rose-tinted glasses, but other things she's pretty upfront about. I like her. She feels real to me. I feel like I should be able to write to her right now. And it was lovely because I read the companion novel a couple months after finishing the series, and then I was like, well, I want to read more, and there are these editorial letters that are fake, but like written in this world that she references in one of the novels, and they're available to read, and I read them, and I'm like, oh, it's like being with her again. I'm reading these letters, and she's so funny. She's so sassy, and in the way that you have to be sassy in like a Victorian era time where you have to like you have to like leave it under the surface. You have to say it between the lines. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm not someone who reads a lot of Jane Austen. I'm not someone who reads a lot of pieces like this. I did give it to my friend who loves Jane Austen, and she's blazing through it and having a good time. So I think it's fair that even if you're not a big fantasy reader, because my friend is not, you can probably pick this up because the fantastical parts are just the dragons, and even then it's done through a scientific lens. And I say that, but it's not so scientific that you get bogged down in it, because that's what I've been nervous about this series for years. You look at the cover, and it's like, I don't want a history or science textbook on dragons. That bores me. And it's not about that at all. So I think this is a case where I'm sure some people saw these covers, picked them up, and loved the books. But I never picked this book up because of the cover, and now it's one of my favorite things of all time. And it's primarily because of the cover, people were like, Angela likes science. This is a science fantasy. Give to Angela. Which thankfully those people did that. But in my head, I was like, I do science all the time. I don't want this. Because that's the type of person I am. I do science for my work. I want something else for my free time. And luckily, like, the science is there and it's done in a cool way. And I love the commentary on science and politics because, like, chef's kiss. But thankfully, it wasn't so, like, overbearing and done in the way that I didn't want. Also, I would say if you're someone who likes archaeology in your books, there's some really fun stuff there and really cool mysteries to unpack over all 5 book arcs. It's really fun. So in general, I'm saying all of this with a lot of praise because these are things I liked. But if any of these things are things you're like, that sounds boring, it probably will be to you. So just keep that in mind. I will say the first book's probably my least favorite. I still really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. But it took me like getting to know Lady Trent, because the first book is her first adventure. She really doesn't have as much agency yet. She's not the woman that is writing the memoirs. Like, she is writing the memoirs, but she's a different person. And after the first book, I love her energy. She's got such a good spark. I just really love Lady Trent. I would also say that these are phenomenal audiobooks. They are narrated by Kate Redding, who's an amazing audiobook narrator, but like, she brings Lady Trent to life so well. I read the first book physically, and the rest I read audiobook for the main 5, and I have no regrets. The only reason I have not purchased physical copies of all 5 of these books is because I know when I reread it, I'm going to use the audiobooks. Because I can't imagine not having that voice for Lady Trent. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it made the parts that I might have found less interesting flow by way quicker. So if you are an audiobook person, these are audiobooks I would check out, because I think there is something about a memoir-style story, whether it's a real memoir in the real world or this fake memoir, that really works well in an audiobook setting, and it really enhanced the experience for me. I went from really liking the series to it's one of my favorite series of all time because of the audiobooks. Now, let's get into the companion novel. I have a nice, shiny library copy here. So after the first 5, there's the 6th book. That's a sizable book. This is a book. It's like 400 pages. Turning Darkness into Light is not about Lady Trent herself. And this is why I didn't pick it up for a while, because I'm like, but I love Lady Trent. That's the main reason I love the series. I don't know what to do. I knew it was about her granddaughter, and I knew it picked up on some of the mysteries and things that we had discussed in the series, so I was intrigued, and I did plan to read it, but Kate Redding wasn't the narrator, and I was like, well, I have other things to do. I ended up physically reading it, and I'm really glad I did, because while the first 5 are memoirs, this is incredibly mixed media. You have diary entries, you have letters between peoples, you have newspaper clippings. That's how it tells this story, and it is through the lens of her granddaughter, who is phenomenal. I really like her. I think if I had a whole series with her, I could love her as much as I love Lady Trent. The side characters are so good. I think the side characters are better in this companion novel than in the original series. There's a character, Cora, who I would defend at all cost. Like, I really like her, and if you like Steris from Mistborn Era 2, I think you would really love Cora. Now, I will say, you probably do have to read the first 5 to read this, even though it is contained on its own, because you won't have any context for the mystery they're unraveling. That said, you could probably look that up if you're like, well, I kind of like this idea of this mixed media book, but I don't really want to be with Lady Trent for 5 books, which I wouldn't understand that, but let's say that's you. You could look up, like, the plot summaries. They're not that in depth for the first 5 books and then jump into this. This is a really great book because it is about uncovering an ancient mystery that will also have ramifications on the politics of the present. And some of the themes in here about how to handle turbulent political times, you can tell this was written after 2016 election in the United States. This was published in 2019. And I love the hopeful, optimistic theming of it. This is very similar to how I love Driftwood by Marie Brennan, where it's like taking a topic that is difficult because it's so close to home and giving it a kinder light to help you feel less down. I mean, maybe it's too naive or optimistic, but I enjoyed that as part of the story. I took a quote from this book. Like, I don't usually take quotes from books. I'm trying to be better about that this year, but it's a thing I did. So somehow, even though Lady Trent is probably my favorite thing about this entire world and the memoirs of Lady Trent, the last book, The Turning Darkness into Light, is my favorite book. The rest, I think I gave maybe one of them 5 stars in the main novels. They were definitely more like the parts were lesser than the whole, whatever that phrase is that I cannot remember for some reason. This last book, it's 400 pages. I binge read it in like 48 hours, and I loved it. It thematically resonated with me. I loved the characters. I loved the mystery. It had one of the more compelling mysteries to me, because I'm like, games are afoot. What is happening? I had so many theories, and it was a blast. It was really a joy of a time. So this is a series where it's not incredibly character-driven per se. It's actually very plot-driven, but the thing I love about it is the main character, and it's Victorian set, and it's like a fantasy of manners. So any of those things are not like your anti-buzzwords. You should give it a try. Now, it might not work for you. There might, maybe the formulaic nature is boring. Maybe you don't like the setting or the world. Maybe Lady Trent does not bring you joy and laughs like she does me, and that is all okay. But those are the things I love about it. That's why I think it's worth anyone's time. It is so cozy and comfortable and a fun adventure fantasy series where you learn about dragons. And I guess to answer the question about dragons, there are dragons, but you definitely don't see as many dragons as I think you would expect in a book called, A Natural History of Dragons and things like that. But that is my should you read for this series, and obviously my biased answer is yes. Yes, you should. And I'm sure it comes as no surprise that the emoji I invite you to leave at the end of this video is a dragon. And let me know if you have any other questions about this series. Please do not leave any spoilers for this series down in the comments. I will have to automatically delete those. This is a spoiler-free safe zone. And one other thing that I feel like I shouldn't have to say, but my coworker almost did something bad. You must read the main 5 books in order. They're not just like standalone novels that are in chronological order that you can just like jump around. It is like a chronological plot with an arc. I mean, you can do what you want. You are you, presumably an adult, because most of the people who watch my channel are adults. But regardless, you are a person, do what you want, but order does matter. Believe me when I thought I never would have to say that to a person, but my coworker read this book on my recommendation, loved it, and almost skipped a book that was pivotal. And I was like, oh no. So, but most of the time, people who read series understand, and they read it from beginning to end and don't skip 3rd books. It's insane to me. So, sorry for that tangent. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.